Okay, we already talked about stairs and hallways, but we're going to dive into it one more time, just give you a few more examples. You want to look for treads and risers, handrails, anything that's missing. Once again, health and safety stuff. Use common sense here. Okay, let's talk about laundry rooms, utility rooms where the washer and dryer and mechanical rooms too would be included in this section. You want to make sure that all the plumbing works. If it needs a GFCI outlet, it works. The venting is working. Nothing's missing. So you could literally put a washer and dryer in that area. It functions, it's safe, it's secure, and it's adequate. If it's not, then you want to call it out. Lots of times you see people venting the dryer into a spot where they're not supposed to, or they've got a panel box right above a sink or something just crazy that it's just a bad design, or just raw plumbing or raw electrical, things like that. You want to call those out. It just needs to be safe, secure, and function. Okay, fireplaces and flues. Once again, you don't need a fireplace, but if you have one, it needs to be safe and it needs to function. Lots of things we run into are, masonry items that are bad. The chimney's all stuffed up. It's not clean. It's got a fire hazard. Not vented properly. It could cause carbon monoxide to get into the house. So you can basically look at a fireplace as long as everything is functioning and safe and secure and vented properly and there's no combustibles around it, you should be in good shape. If you can't tell, then you would want to call it out and say, hey, I recommend, a chimney sweep or a masonry fireplace expert to come in and evaluate this. And just, it could be a fire hazard. You don't want to get a fire in a fireplace and burn the house down. That's what you're trying to avoid. Just all your common sense fire safety. Okay, now we're going to dive into attics, roofs, trusses, and joists. So obviously, this is the part of the house that's holding up the roof, and it all needs to be secure, safe, not failing, not getting water inside. Some of the common things that we do see are failing joist, failing rafters, termite damage, water getting in around a chimney, water getting in around windows, mold growth, it's not vented properly, so it's getting too hot up there. All of those kind of things, if you see any of that kind of stuff, you want to call that out also. And basically, that section of the house is what's protecting the rest of the house from the top down. So just take in consideration, is it working? Is it functioning? Is it safe? Is it secure? Is it failing or not? And, call those items out, document them, and explain where they are, exactly what you see, and exactly what needs to be done. Okay, now we're going to talk about lead-based paint, asbestos, radon, and mold. These are kind of like, I'm going to call them nuisance items. They show up every once in a while, and when you see them, you definitely want to address them because you don't want them in the house. Asbestos, lots of times you'll see that in tape that's around ductwork. Sometimes there's asbestos tile. Sometimes there's asbestos siding. Lead-based paint, obviously, years ago they made paint with lead in it. That's a health and safety issue. If a little child eats some of the lead paint, it can cause brain issues and learning disabilities. So, it's not allowed anymore, but some buildings still have lead-based paint in it. So you would definitely want to call that out. And then mold, everybody knows what mold is, but it's a microbial growth. Some of it's really bad, some of it's not bad at all, but it all needs to go away. And most of the time it's caused by water or moisture, and it starts growing mold. So you want to call all those things out. And then there's a gas, what's called radon, and it's usually in the lower level of the house, and it's coming up from the ground. And if you have a high radon level, you can do a radon mitigation system, which is really just a vent that sucks the air out from the lower part of the home and pushes it out of the house. So those are, I'm going to call them nuisance items, but definitely things you want to take care of. If you find mold, asbestos, lead paint, or radon, definitely put those in the in your report so that they can get a bid from the contractor and get those items fixed. And then other things to consider, just use common sense. If it is deteriorated, not working, damaged, causing damage, going to have potential damage, going to potentially hurt somebody, put them in your report. Worst case scenario, you call something out and it doesn't need to be fixed. But for most part, you're going to know what these items are. You're going to call them out, make sure they get on the bid. That way, when the contractor's bidding the project, what he can do is add all of those items, deal with those first, and then if the client has money left over, they can do their wish list items. So always, what we call it, shopping backwards. So start with the FHA minimum items, get all those knocked off, and then whatever money's left, then start dealing with your wish list items, which are luxuries, things that don't absolutely have to be done to pass the lender's criteria.